Okay, I want to do just a tiny bit of teaching on solution analysis, so see how this works for you. We've been talking about how you can take a particular target behavior and then do a chain analysis so you understand what sets it off, what keeps it going, and really what are all the steps that lead up to it, sort of like creating a movie script, like really getting the nuance. So empathically, you know where the person gets stuck and how the whole problem behavior kind of is kept going. So I tend to, when I'm starting to shift over into solution analysis, I tend to have three key places I'm trying to find a good solution, some alternative behavior that would work for the person. The first is at the point of no return. This is that last instance before the person engages in the problem behavior where maybe they could get it to go different. And just so, for example, if you have razors in your house or if you have the medicine you overdose, when you get to that point of distress, it's there. And so being able to kind of turn that around would require not having the means available. So there's actually an extra step in there, and for some people that might be enough of a change in means availability that it would reduce their probability of actually taking an overdose or cutting. So I tend to look for the point of no return. Can be things like, that second drink that puts you over the edge, or the subtle ways that you don't catch dissociation early, and then once you're dissociated, kind of all bad things come. So finding that point of no return and coming up with really concrete, how will you handle this differently? What would it require for this to go differently? Right there is the first place I tend to focus. So we may not be able to keep you from getting all the way out there, but even at that last instance, what could we get in place that would get you off that trajectory? The second place I tend to look for solutions is early on in the sequence, before emotion has gotten too high, before the train's really left the station, before there's momentum behind the behavior, so where it might be easier to turn it around. An example there might be, for some people, sleep. If you really are inattentive and kind of go past your what's really required for you to regulate yourself, so like if you're prone to bipolar hypomanic episodes, or if you're tend to get psychotic when your system is so stressed out by lack of sleep. Like for some people, sleep, if they're sleeping well, less symptoms. Sleeping unwell, lots of symptoms, lots of trouble comes. But there may be other things too that happen early in the sequence, that early place where you were externally invalidated, you stood up for yourself, but then you switched over to self-invalidation. So there's, or you drifted from wise mind in an interpersonal situation. And once you did that, that disconnect ended up putting you at risk for other things. So early on in the sequence, what is necessary to kind of catch and tell you're on the chain and then get it to go different? That's the other place I tend to focus. And then the third place I tend to focus is on common links. So if we took multiple target behaviors, say what increased the urges this week for more urges for suicide, and what led to that last drinking binge, and what led to missing therapy. And say you had the chains that led up to those behaviors and what maintained them. And maybe you could look across all of those different instances and you would see one or two patterns that are actually common across the different chains. So say rumination, say something happens, sets off a certain type of shame, and then a ruminative style, like going over and over and over it, that the person can't get out of. And maybe that happens, and so they miss session because that happened, they got overwhelmed, they went back to bed. That happened in another instance, and that was actually part of the sequence that led up to drinking. That happened, and that was also part of the sequence that led up to suicidal urges being up this week. So if you had a link that was like that across the different targets, treating that one link actually may allow you to change all those behaviors. So those are my three places where I would tend to look for solutions most. The point of no return, right before the person engages in the problem behavior that you're trying to change early on, where there's still some possibility of movement, and any place that is common across target behaviors. Okay, so that's part one.